Welcome back to another episode where we answer some of your guys' questions. We're still going through some that you guys have asked specifically through those cards. If you have any more questions, put them in the back and I would love to answer them. Today's question is a great one. And I think a question that a lot of you guys have been wrestling with, which is, why didn't God just destroy the serpent in the garden? I mean, think about that question. It's a great question. I mean, it took 4,000 years for God to send Jesus after the fall. So after the fall, 4,000 years of Israel wandering from God, of so much pain and suffering and death and Satan controlling so many hearts and blinding eyes. And then Jesus comes. For the past 2,000 years since his death and resurrection and ascension, the pain hasn't stopped. There's still suffering. There's tears. There's agony. There's the death of our family members. There's sicknesses. There's sin. There's still Satan blinding eyes. So why is this the case? Why didn't God just destroy Satan in the garden and then we would live sinless without death and we would be united with him for the rest of eternity in heaven, walking in the garden with him? Why didn't God just destroy Satan then if he knew what was going to happen? Great question. Well, in order to answer this, I think we first need to understand, why did God make Adam and Eve in the first place? Or bring it back home. Why did God make you? Like, what is your purpose? What is your mission statement? When God made man, why did he do it? Well, Isaiah 43:7 says, "Everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, I formed and made." What does it say there? God created them for his glory. So know this, if you are in this room, if you have breath in your lungs, then you were made for the glory of God. That is your primary goal, to display God's glory and however that may look. So Adam and Eve were made to display the glory of God. It wasn't simply they were made to walk with God. They were made to display God's glory. That means that our happiness, our comfort, and our pain and our suffering are not God's primary concern. Nor was God's primary concern Adam and Eve spending eternity with him. God's primary concern was his glory. God does all things for his glory. All things, which is really humbling. It's really humbling to think he does all things for his glory. Think of even the command when he tells Adam and Eve to go and be fruitful and multiply, fill the nations. Why does he say that? He says that so that all nations would know of this glory-filled God, of this God who deserves praise. In Isaiah 49:6, it says, "It is too light of a thing that you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to bring back the preserved of Israel. I will make you as a light for the nations, that my salvation may reach to the end of the earth." So God is saying from the start of Genesis that I am doing this for my glory. I'm carrying out this plan. You fell in the garden for my glory. And why is that? So that all the nations would know of this God who saves. Then even look at Jesus' death on the cross. His death on the cross. Think about this. Was it primarily for you so that you could have salvation and have life and have it abundantly? Or was it primarily for God? Was it for you or for God? Now, this might be a little uncomfortable to hear, but Jesus' death on the cross was for God. It was for his glory, so that his name would be praised amongst the nations. It's not only for us. Yes, it is for us. We benefit from the death on the cross more than any other benefit in the world, but God primarily had Jesus die on the cross for his glory. Proof of this is Ephesians chapter 1. The whole chapter lists off the blessings that we have in Christ as believers. And Paul, after he gets done praising the Lord for these blessings, he says, the reason for it? He says the reason is to the praise of his glory. Jesus gave you life, if you are a Christian, so that you would go and display his glory. There is still sickness in the world so that God gets glory from it in a way that we might not understand. There's evil today. Why? So that God's glory would be displayed. Somehow, some way, through the midst of so much pain and suffering, God promises that all things will happen for his good, for his glory, and for our good. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Why? So that we would be conformed into the image of his Son. You becoming more like Christ is great. But that serves to the primary goal, which is bringing more glory to Christ. Bringing more glory to Christ is what we should be obsessed with as a youth group. I love John Piper's quote where he says, God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him. When we display that God is enough to all those lost around us, God is glorified because we proclaim his worthiness. We proclaim that he is worthy to satisfy every thirsty soul. He is worthy to bring all the heartache in the world to an end, and he is worthy to save everyone. And why does he do it? It is for his glory. So that is why God did not destroy the serpent in the garden. It is because God knew that this would be the plan. You are a part of it. To help display his glory. This is the greatest plan. This is the way he gets the most glory, which is all that he deserves is the most glory. Thanks for tuning in.